Somewhere in your area, there is probably a flower growing in a ditch right now that shares a family tree with the plant behind morphine and heroin. Same botanical household. Completely different chemistry. You can dry the leaves of this one, pour hot water over them, drink it at the end of a hard day, and get up the next morning with nothing tugging at you. No withdrawal, no craving, no slow reduction schedule to work through. It takes the sharpness out of physical discomfort. It slows down the kind of thinking that keeps a person staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning. It brings sleep and then steps back out of the way, and it does not come looking for a bigger dose tomorrow. For a while in this country, one of the biggest drug manufacturers alive sold it and described it in almost those terms in its own printed catalog. Something for sleep, something for pain, and safe, which was the word they leaned on hardest. Almost nobody today can tell you why it stopped being sold. Here is the answer, and it is not the one you would guess. It did not fail. Nobody could own it. This is the California poppy, the orange bloom that runs across the western hillsides every spring. The flower kids pull up by the fistful on the walk home, and the same plant that thoughtful doctors handed to patients back when morphine was a risk they were not willing to take. Welcome back to the channel. Long before any European wrote this plant down, the people already living in that landscape knew it thoroughly. Communities across the region worked with all of it. Root, leaf, and petal. They reached for it to quiet pain, to calm a child who could not be calmed, to bring rest to someone who needed it. That was not folklore. That was generations of careful watching in one place, and the useful parts got kept and passed forward. Spanish settlers arrived and saw entire slopes glowing in the late light, and they named it for what they saw: Copa de Oro, cup of gold. The scientific name has a stranger origin. It arrived on a ship. Early in the 1800s, a Russian voyage worked its way down that coast with a young naturalist and surgeon named Schultz aboard. A colleague traveling with him named the flower in his honor, and that clumsy Latin label has been stuck to it ever since. Eschscholtzia californica. Here's the part that catches people off guard. This cheerful little roadside flower is genuinely a poppy. Same family as Papaver somniferum, the opium poppy. They are relatives, but being related is not the same as carrying the same cargo. Opium poppy holds morphine and codeine inside it. This one holds none of that. Zero. What it holds instead is a separate group of plant compounds that operate on the human body at a much lower volume. They ease, they loosen. They release the grip that pain and worry get on the nervous system, and they manage it without the chemical hook that makes opium so hazardous. There is no habit to build. There is no ladder of escalating doses to climb. That single fact is the reason everything that follows happened the way it did. For a stretch, respectable American medicine agreed with all of it. In 1890, the California poppy appeared in the Parke-Davis catalog, and at that moment, Parke-Davis was among the most powerful pharmaceutical houses on earth. Their own entry called it an excellent soporific and analgesic, and made a point of describing it as harmless. A sleep aid and a painkiller nobody needed to be afraid of. That is not a herb vendor at a market stall making claims. That is a major corporation attaching its name and its liability to a wildflower. Physicians stood behind it too. There was a full recognized branch of American medicine built around plants of this kind. Its practitioners were known as the Eclectic physicians, and they were not amateurs. They ran accredited medical colleges. They trained thousands of doctors who went out and practiced. They wrote the reference books those doctors carried with them. Two of the most respected, Felter and Lloyd, produced King's American Dispensatory together, which stood as a major medical text of that period. Their description of this poppy called it an analgesic and soporific free of the dangers that came with opiates. It settled pain, they wrote, and produced calm sleep. Picture what that meant in an actual sick room. Someone is in real pain, but opium is off the table. either because they cannot tolerate it or because the doctor has seen where opium leads and does not want that for this person. This is what got reached for instead. Actual relief that would not consume the patient. It was documented. It was legitimate. It sat on shelves next to everything else being dispensed. And for a brief window, it looked like American medicine had turned up something genuinely uncommon. A safe answer to one of the oldest problems in the whole practice. That position looked untouchable. It was not. Nothing changed about the plant. What changed was the profession standing behind it. In 1910, an educator named Abraham Flexner published a heavily financed survey of American medical education. Taken on its own terms, that survey did real good. It required medical schools to actually have laboratories. It closed a great many outright credential factories that were sending untrained people out to treat the public. But it also drew a line, and it drew it permanently. Real medicine, the report argued, was whatever could be measured in a laboratory and produced in a factory. Anything built on plants, on decades of accumulated bedside observation rather than controlled measurement, was declared to have no future. The states went along with it. Licensing boards rewrote their standards to match, and those standards consistently rewarded one kind of medicine over the other. They rewarded the patentable compound, the molecule a company could synthesize, bottle, and legally hold as property, over the plant extract that any person could grow behind their house for nothing. That is the whole center of this story. Everything else is commentary. You cannot patent a wildflower. This one grows for free along every road. No company could corner it, brand it, or decide what it should cost. A laboratory molecule, on the other hand, could be owned outright and priced at whatever the market tolerated. So the funding went toward molecules. The research went toward molecules. The teaching positions, the prestige, the career paths, all of it drifted the same direction. Plants were left behind for a reason that had nothing to do with whether they worked. There was no revenue in them. By 1934, the head of the Eclectic Physicians' Own Association admitted, more or less in mourning, that two doors were left. Get absorbed into the corporate system now running everything, or close. 5 years later, in 1939, the final Eclectic Medical School in Cincinnati graduated its last class and shut. The tradition that had vouched for this plant simply ceased to exist. But watch carefully what actually disappeared there. The flower did not disappear. It came up on schedule the next spring and every spring after. What disappeared was the body of trained people who knew what to do with it. The knowledge went. The plant stayed exactly where it had always been, and for decades, that was that. The poppy went back to being scenery on the way somewhere, and science moved on without looking back. Then the laboratory circled around to it again. In 1991, a French research team published Implanta Medica, testing directly what those old doctors had claimed a century before. Their extract produced measurable sedative and calming effects. Later work started explaining the mechanism. The compounds in this plant appear to act on the same calming system in the brain that modern anti-anxiety drugs target, the GABA system, including the specific receptor that benzodiazepine sedatives bind to. So the old remedy had genuine biology sitting underneath it the entire time. Then in 2004, a proper clinical trial appeared in Current Medical Research and Opinion. 264 patients with mild to moderate anxiety took part in a double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Now I want to be precise here because I am not going to sell you more than the evidence supports. What was tested was not this poppy on its own. It was a fixed botanical formula combining California poppy with hawthorn and magnesium. That formula beat placebo at reducing anxiety across 3 months. So the poppy was part of a lineup rather than a solo act, but it earned its place in the lineup. And in at least one country, the recognition is now formal. Health Canada permits a California poppy product to be sold specifically as a mild sedative and as help for managing chronic pain. A modern government health authority signing off on essentially the same use of pharmacy catalog printed in 1890. One honest word of caution, because I know a lot of you are on prescriptions. Since this plant works on the same calming system as prescription sedatives and anxiety medication, anybody already taking those needs to raise it with their own doctor before adding it. Gentle is the right word for this plant. Gentle does not mean it does nothing. Now, here is the part of this I actually enjoy. While every institution that had defended this flower was shutting its doors, the flower itself was being honored by the state it was named for. In 1903, California made it the official state flower. It has held that title for more than 120 years without a break. And every April, it still does exactly what it did for the people who first learned to use it. Whole hillsides turn gold. In places like the Antelope Valley north of Los Angeles, the bloom spreads so far that people will drive half a day just to stand inside an ocean of orange and look at it. You have almost certainly seen it already without registering what you were looking at. On the shoulder of a highway, in a field, printed across an old California postcard in somebody's drawer. And that is where the quiet justice of this whole record turns up. Those patented laboratory compounds that were supposed to make plants like this obsolete now carry a long history of their own, including an opioid crisis that has reached into nearly every family in this country. Meanwhile, the mild flower that careful doctors reached for instead, the one no corporation could ever hold as property, never went anywhere. It outlasted the catalog that praised it. It outlasted the colleges that studied it. It outlasted the entire profession that defended it. And it is still out there, free, every spring, in ditches and along roads nobody maintains. It was never lost. We just stopped recognizing it. That deserves a moment, because this pattern is not unique to one flower. Useful knowledge rarely vanishes because it stopped working. It vanishes when the structure carrying it forward gets replaced by a structure with no room for it. The plant keeps growing. The method keeps working. What breaks is the chain of people handing it along. And that chain only needs one person in each generation to notice. If a flower you have driven past 1,000 times can carry a history like this, there are dozens more sitting in the same condition right now. Still growing, still written down somewhere in an old book, forgotten by nearly everyone. If that is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe to the channel, and the next one will land in your feed the moment it is ready.